Begin your path to building your family with reproductive gynecology and infertility. With outstanding success rates and IVF live birth guarantee plans, RGI offers a personalized approach to fertility care, including a dedicated navigator for individualized support. Explore your options at rgiohio.com. Jackie Hutson.
Okay.
Welcome to the Carrie Croft Show.
Well, thank you for having me.
How goes it?
It goes, man, but I feel like I'm not cool enough to be here, but I'm here for it.
All right.
So
let's start that over. You say, you know what? I'm Jackie motherfucking Hutson.
Okay.
And I'm here to crush the Carrie Croft Show.
Okay, I'm Jackie motherfucking Hutson, and I'm here to crush the Carrie Croft Show.
That is the energy
Let's
with
go.
which we bring forth on a Friday a.m.
I love it.
The weekend of your reunion.
Yes, it's technically 19, but at Denison, they bucket you with 3 years. So it's technically our 19th, but we're considering it our 20th. And so the grades above and below us are also going to be there, which is cool.
Oh, that's great.
You know, it's a small school, so you hung out with multiple grades.
You guys are ready to party.
Partay.
Okay, so I met you also through the one Reagan Walsh. I
Yes.
think there's a common denominator happening here.
It's like
that's
2 degrees of separation,
in
maybe
the form
one.
of Reagan Walsh.
Yep, yeah,
So
amazing.
Reagan, I think, just wants to hook me up with awesomeness, which I
Love her.
Again, shout out Reagan. I mean, I think I need to start an affiliate program
Yes.
just for Reagan.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know, give her like some kind of points or something. I don't know what I would possibly give her. But Reagan, thank you again for this. Just another amazing connection. So Jackie, you and I talked several months ago.
Yes.
And on FaceTime.
Correct.
And this energy of yours, I was like, oh man, I know what's coming today. It's a freight train. This
Yeah.
girl is like,
Yep.
on a 10, which I can appreciate and then love in a person.
Thank you.
So you are the consummate hustler, entrepreneur.
Yeah, it's been in me since I was little.
And it's mixed with a can-do attitude, positivity that's been ingrained in you, not only genetically, but with your upbringing from your, fabulous fam
Yep,
that you...
for sure.
Okay. So, I mean, even when you were a wee child in the 5th grade, you were selling your Beanie Babies. You were looking for opportunity.
Heck, yeah.
So tell me about that. Like when you have the Beanie Baby, because I had Cabbage Patch Kids too, and I look back, and Care Bears.
Yep.
I'm like,
Had
what
them
was
too.
I thinking? Why did I not...
Yeah, it's funny. So I grew up in a town that had a really cute, quaint downtown area that was attached to the school. So I would leave, elementary school or middle school, and you'd head downtown. And I was babysitting at a very young age. I was a certified babysitter by 4th grade, and so literally making some dough, at an earlier age. And so I had some money in the pocket, and I would go to the local Hallmark store. And, Hallmark has stuffed animals and little tchotchke things. And there were these things that I called them tie guys because Beanie Babies weren't even Beanie Babies then. I was literally a pre-buyer, like pre-adopter, call it, of Beanie Babies. I just thought they were cute and they cost $4.99. And again, perfect babysitting money spent. So I would, every time I go in there, just buy one. Also, fun fact, Ty Warner is based in my hometown. Like he's from Oak Brook, which is right next to the town of Hinsdale where I grew up. So I think we also got kind of the latest and greatest stuff. It might have even been like a little test market, to be honest. So next thing you know, eBay's coming around and you're starting to hear this buzz about Beanie Babies. And I, being maybe the hustler that I am, I'm like hearing that people are reselling these for decent money on this new thing called eBay. And we had in our downtown area a card dealer, like someone who sold baseball cards and traded baseball cards. And he hopped on the eBay train and I saw a sign that said Beanie Babies wanted. And so I was like, sure, why not? Like they didn't have any emotional attachment to me, right? Like, I mean, I liked them, but it was more a collectible and I love collecting things. I've always loved collecting things. So I was like, well, I'm just going to bring him in. So I bring him in and he starts laying him out and his eyes are like bugging out of his head because I have the camel, which at the time, I think he paid me $2,000 for my camel that had a Beanie Baby tag still on it. Now, my mother, she knows this, so I'm not saying anything out there, but she did not like the tags on my Beanie Babies. So she started cutting some off. And so my $5,000 sale, I probably sold him 6 or 7 Beanie Babies. I kid you not, for $5,000. Probably could have been worth a good 10 G's had she not cut all the tags off, but the camel had the tag. So $2K.
Hey, Mom.
So
it's always your fault out there,
I
whoever
know.
you are. It's always
No,
the mom's
love you, Mom.
fault.
It's okay. But I'll tell you, that money I actually saved. I loved having a savings account. I would go to the bank and I'd watch my little pennies of interest grow. And I thought it was so fucking cool that like I did absolutely nothing and my money was making money. Again, even though it was on a super small scale, I just thought it was a really cool concept. And I saved that money until I went and studied abroad in college. And then I spent every penny on skydiving in the Alps and buying crazy Euro clothes that I would never wear again at Denison, but at the time they just felt super cool. And yeah, so it was like...
Isn't that funny?
Wild.
That the Beanie Babies set the tone? Mm. So going back, when you said I like collecting things, I've always like, what else do you collect?
Oh, geez.
Like,
come to my house. So
are you a hoarder?
I'm not a
of
hoarder.
sorts?
No, I'm a curator.
I like that spin.
I love thrifting.
Okay.
I love a good antique market, sometimes a Goodwill find. So like in my kitchen, I have an old vintage cabinet and I have probably 4 or 5 antique scales on this cabinet, right? So like kind of collector of like vintage kitchen scales. And then when I was younger, tea sets, I had, oh gosh, probably 25, 30 tea sets. So wherever I would go, we'd buy another tea set and collect them. And people give me for gifts, right? Because they know you love tea sets. So, and I was born on Valentine's Day. So to be fair, every birthday growing up was a tea party. So they came in handy.
Did you ever get into like the thimbles or the
nothing,
snow globes?
No snow globes, no thimbles. It was, and then my mom has called me the bag lady since I was little. She said, you've always had a handbag. And it's funny, even when I go to work these days, I'm always coming in the office with like multiple bags and it's just like a running joke. So bag lady accessories is like kind of my jam.
What's your husband say about all this collecting?
I mean, he's okay. I make it look nice and neat. So again, it's really not hoarding. It's not. We have a storage barn that some of the more organized hoarding goes into.
You don't strike me as let's get this straight. You don't strike me as like a hoarder with reckless abandon.
No,
you
it's
strike
purposeful.
me as, yes. I'm just curious if your husband's like, oh, she got another fucking scale at the swap meet.
It's more about, for a while I was into chairs and he was like, not another chair. Like I'd come home like, but it was $2 at Goodwill and I'm going to paint it. He's like, but you're not. And
we're done.
And it's going to sit in our garage. So let's just put it back on the street. So
got it.
There was a chair thing for a while, but I've gotten a lot better.
Okay.
So
as a young child, you were bit with the entrepreneur bug.
Yeah.
You even went to Italy and started creating some belt that you wrote about in your intake form. So that was always in you.
Yeah.
And then when you got married and then infertility knocked on the door, then maybe these two things in your life sort of came together to form what you're doing now. So let's talk about the infertility component and how that happened for you and your husband.
Yeah. So it's interesting. When I was in high school, I've had horrible cramps, menstrual cramps, my entire life. My mom had them, my sister had them, but mine were just on another level. Like I would miss a day of school, inevitably, once a month, because I'd be in so much pain. And so they said, well, maybe you have endometriosis. Let's do some scans. Let's do some ultrasounds. So I remember I was in high school and going in and getting these tests done. And I remember the doctor called me up. My mom handed me the phone. I was in the library in my home that I grew up in Chicago. Like I can remember the whole thing. And they said, hey, you don't have endometriosis. I was like, okay. They're like, but you have what's called a bicornate uterus. And I was like, okay, like what does that mean? They said, well, it's kind of like a heart-shaped uterus. And I was like, oh, it's Valentine's Day. Everyone's like, oh, it's Valentine's, it's hearts. It's just part of, you're just this love child and now your uterus is heart-shaped. Like that was kind of like the thing of, but she did say it shouldn't cause you issues getting pregnant, but you might have issues carrying to term because there's not as much room for the baby to grow. And you're in high school and that's like heavy information to get. And I remember trying to process it and I know I cried. Like I remember not really fully understanding what that meant, but it was like, okay, when it comes time, like, you'll talk to your doctor about it. I'm like, okay, fine. So then it was kind of out of sight, out of mind. And to be honest, I didn't really remember it when we decided to start trying. But, a year goes by, nothing's happening. I'm like, okay, like I probably should start talking to someone else about this. Go to Ohio Reproductive Medicine here in Columbus. And the first thing I say is, hey, you know what? My mom reminded me, I was told I have a bicornate uterus, so maybe that's the issue. And it was like, red flag, red flag. He looked right at me and he was like, that's the number one misdiagnosed thing. And I was like, oh, well, what does that mean? He's like, well, an ultrasound sees a bicornate uterus, but it can't catch all the other things. So you really need to get an MRI. I was like, okay. So I go and get an MRI. Turns out I have a septate uterus. And so he called me up and he's like, so you have like a mass of tissue in your uterus, like that is going to impede you from getting pregnant. So it wasn't the one thing that they thought it was. It was something totally different. He's like, we need to remove this, and you should be able to get pregnant and hopefully have a successful pregnancy. Like, okay. One laparoscopic surgery later, we're trying, nothing. 3 months turns into 6 months. Okay, let's get you on some fertility meds. Let's try some Clomid. Let's try, some shots. Still nothing. Then we go to the IUI, right, the insemination part. And luckily on the second take, it actually did work for me, which I know it's, for some people, it's definitely a lower percentage, but it did work, which was great. And I ended up having my first son, and I was nauseous as hell the entire pregnancy. I mean, it was a hard pregnancy for me. It was very hard, but had a baby, healthy, great. Time for the second one. Okay, we know the routine. I'm going to go in, I'm going to get the Clomid, I'm going to get do all the things. And we did, and it worked. And immediately felt the nausea, felt the belly growing, tender breath, like all the things were there. Have our first ultrasound, looks good. Second ultrasound, which they watch you more, right, when you're going through this. So you have definitely more ultrasounds than the typical pregnancy. So it was, I believe, our 11-week ultrasound when they found no heartbeat. And I think the hardest part about that was I still felt very pregnant. I was still on my anti-nausea medicine. I was still growing a belly. My breasts were still killing me, right? All these markers were still happening, but you're like, wait a minute, there's no baby, there's no heartbeat there. So the doctor said, let's give it a week. Let's see if your body just, processes and will on its own kind of like, release the pregnancy. And, a week later, nothing's happening. So she's like, let's get you scheduled for a D&C. And I will say that was probably the most traumatic thing for me to go through, because it's, you go in, you get, you're in a gown, they put you under, you're getting wheeled into this room. I remember I had like a full-on panic attack as she's wheeling me in the room to like take your unborn child, right? Like it's just so fucked up. Like it's so messed up. And then when you're done, it's like, okay, now go home. And I'm like, what? Like, okay. And go lay in my bed by myself and cry. And, my friends, they sent me flowers and, but it's also a time that you got to think about 10 years ago, Instagram and all these platforms weren't a thing. Like they're really, I'm sure there was something out there, but it wasn't as vocal and in my face. So I just felt pretty alone, and then I was like, okay, well, I still want that kid. So back on the bandwagon, back on the shots, back on, another round of insemination, all the things. And we did get pregnant again with my second son, Bennett. And, had a successful pregnancy, all the things. So then I'm 9 months postpartum with Bennett. I remember it was Halloween night. We were doing a major renovation on our house. And all of a sudden I start feeling like real nauseous. I'm like, okay. And I'm feeling a little bloated and again, like tenderness. And I'm like, God, could I be pregnant? Like we've never gotten pregnant on our own, to be fair. Right. So, I'm thinking, no, it can't be that. And I'm like, well, when you go through all the fertility stuff, you have like tens of thousands of pregnancy tests like under your drawer. Right. So like, well, I got an extra one. Let me just try it. So I take it and it said like, look, I'm pregnant. And I'm thinking, God, I'm 9 months postpartum. I'm gonna have 2 kids under 2, but like this happened on its own. Like that's super cool. Like I always wanted 3, and like your mind's racing, right? And so I told my husband. He's like, "Wow, okay." He's like, "We'll figure. We're here for it. Like we'll figure this out." And so went to the first ultrasound. All the markers are going off, right? Looks great. Again, that 11-week, and again, no heartbeat. And at this point, you got to think this is my technically my body's 4th pregnancy. I mean, I couldn't hide it at work that I was pregnant. Like my 10-week look at work was like, I was already back in maternity leggings. I had literally the CEO like come up and hug me and congratulate me, right? Because it was just, you couldn't hide it. Like it was, and so at that point I was like, well, yeah, I guess, yeah, I am pregnant, and just letting people know before that 12-week mark, which I, is a no-no. But so then having that happen again, when at this point more people knew about it, right? So then it's coworkers, right? So you're close with them, but you're not like super close with them. So like having that awkward conversation of like, oh, actually I'm not pregnant anymore. And I remember sitting in a financial review again, nauseous as heck, still on my medicine, waiting for my body to like move through this thing, which it never did, by the way. So I had to go back in and have another DNC, which was like a whole nother capital T trauma moment there. And again, coming home, feeling alone, like, you know, it's something that I feel like I still probably have like deep wounds about that I probably haven't worked through fully. But it also makes me think like, man, like there's so much more we need to be doing for one another, you know, for other women that are going through this and supporting them and knowing that it's okay and that this is normal. Like, you know, miscarriages, they're not normal, to be honest, right? But I never heard that. I'd never understood like, it's okay. This is whatever you believe in, the universe, God's way of being like, there was something wrong. And so that's why, okay, cool. Like I'm totally at peace with that. But it was like the post care just wasn't there.
That and the trauma of not seeing that heartbeat is a thing that no one should ever have to go through.
Yep.
But then knowing like your body wasn't able somehow to make it right.
Yep.
But then your body can't let go.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's such a head screw.
It was. And you know, my sister was getting married literally, gosh, was it a week after? So the question was, do we let your body try to let this pass, knowing I had to be on a plane in like a couple days for my sister's wedding. And she's like, I don't know if I want you flying in case something bad happens. So that's kind of what triggered, like, I think we should get you in and do this thing again, right? So having still that wave of emotions, but then being there for my sister to celebrate like a huge part of her life, you know, it was just like a very, very hard, like, conflicting time, right? Of just getting wheeled out of the hospital for this and then getting on an airplane and going to that and just having to like be smiles and like, you know, it's going to be fine. And then now there's still a little part of me that's like, damn, like, was I supposed to have 3 kids? Like, was this the plan? And this was like, but then I can't, you know, like I have to let that go and be like, no, I have 2 beautiful boys. And yeah, but like so there's some purpose for that, right? Like I went through that for a reason, but I've come to peace with, again, beautiful family, very happy about it, but I still think there's so much more that needs to be done in regards to even just that experience overall. Like it was so sterile and, you know, and my doctor, love her, and she was holding my hand as I was wheeling in and having my second panic attack and all the things, and they like, you know, put me under quickly for that and gave me some chill pills. But it's just like, man, does it have to be that way though?
Yeah.
Like,
do we have to feel like we're on a weird island?
Yeah.
You know, of misfit toys.
Yeah. Truly.
Right. So then this company that you're building and have built now, Piper and Mint.
Yeah.
So tell me, where did you have that intersection? Like, what was that moment where you're like, okay, the entrepreneur in me and the mom who's gone through all this kind of collided?
Yeah. So as I said, I've always had ideas and business ideas. I've also had my family was very involved in philanthropic efforts growing up. So my dad worked in the financial industry, was very active in our church, and always did community service. And my mom stayed at home with us, but was basically president of every auxiliary board you could have that was doing good around the community. So I've always grown up with this idea of giving back.
Ready to elevate your self-care game? Boss Gal Beauty Bar is a modern med spa offering everything from cosmetic injectables, lasers and microneedling, to medical-grade facials and skincare. Conveniently located in Clintonville, Grandview, Powell, and Easton, making self-care a priority has never been easier. Use code CROFT for $25 off your first visit.
So I knew that at some point I would have a business that would be more than just a business. Like it was going to be doing something else good in the world for somebody, right? So that's always been like an underlying thing. But then after I had my first son, Parker, my friend and I, Amelia, were both talking about our night sweats. This thing that, again, no one ever talked about. Never heard about it. You know, I went to all the breastfeeding classes. I went to, you know, here's how you change a diaper. Like all the things. And never once was someone like, oh, by the way, you might wake up and be like drenched in the bed and then you got to go take a shower even though you're not getting any sleep and like all these things, right? So I can't take credit for the actual idea. It was my friend Amelia who said she was chatting with her OBGYN and saying, I'm having these night sweats. What can I do? And they said, sleep on a towel or wear a workout shirt. And she's like, well, I'm nursing at night. Like a workout shirt's not really conducive to that. And so Amelia came to me and said, we should make pajamas that help wick the sweat away, but that are nursing friendly and really comfortable for like a postpartum mom that's going through all this change and all this, a lot of things are uncomfortable postpartum, right? And so this was, call it 10 years ago. And Amelia and I actually started a little bit working on it, tinkering with the idea, and then job changes, more babies, it kind of got brushed aside. And then fast forward to where we are today, I'm now a part owner in a design and manufacturing company as well. So literally I moved from corporate retail to manufacturing, where I make product and launch brands for people all day long. And I still have this idea in the back of my head that's been weighing on me. I kid you, since Amelia and I talked about it, I'm like, this is still a thing. Like, this is still a thing. It just wasn't the right time, but like, I'm going to have to make it. Like, I'm going to have to make the time, to make this be a thing. And so about 3 years ago, I started really kind of envisioning. I'm a big, call it manifestor. I'm a big, big imagination, right? So I see things like, and I see what it could be, and I could visualize what this brand could be and how it could evolve. And I was like, I can't damper it. Like, I got to just go with it. So also I had a very interesting psychic medium reading that kind of was another impetus of getting the business going. Basically, long story short, I was seeing a psychic medium. My grandma came through, and she turned on the TV in this reading, and Shark Tank came on. And the woman starts saying, like, Shark Tank's on. And I was like, oh, yeah. And she's like, what does that mean? I was like, oh, I'm going to be on Shark Tank. She's like, what do you mean you're going to be on Shark Tank? I'm like, oh, I have a product idea, and I've been thinking about it, and I feel like I need to pick it up but I'm going to be on Shark Tank with it. And she's like, well, your grandma just turned on the TV and Shark Tank came on. So I think it's time you get going on that idea.
Unbelievable.
So then 3 years later, testing a bunch of fabric, finding focus group women in a Facebook lactation group, like, hey, any swatty mamas out there, I got some free tanks I want you to try, and started getting this feedback. And at the time, my friend Amelia was like, hey, I want you to go with this. Like, I don't need to be a part of this. You just take it and run with it, So I said, okay, I'm going to run with it. And so that's been the past 3 years of running with all the things that go into making a product, especially a product that's like really solving a problem. You got to make sure it works and the fit and, all the things that I do day in, day out. But that's been a journey to get there. But
now, is your friend, you said her name's Amelia?
Yeah.
Does Amelia get a little percenty poo?
She's got a little something in there.
Percenty poo. I was going to say, because, she a friend. She a friend, but she ain't that good of a friend.
Yeah. No. Amelia's, yeah. Right. We got a good.
Sure, hey, I'm just protecting you out there, Amelia. She takes this thing. I'd bet on this horse any day. She takes this thing and makes a multi-million-dollar company. It's like, knock, knock, motherfucker. Yeah. Remember that day when I said we should make some jammies, bitch?
Yeah. So I got her.
That's good. Okay.
I got her. Yes.
Good. We have that on record here. We have that on record. Okay. So you happen to bring a pair or two of these, right? Let's take a look at these little puppies. I like the colors.
Thank you. So yes, we have just launched, and we have 3 colors. We have a wash sable, which is basically a black. And then we have our wisteria, which is this really pretty lilac-y
wisteria
purple.
lane, baby.
Yep.
Oh,
and then
they're like cool.
Evergreen.
They feel cool to the touch.
They are. So and this is our nursing friendly.
Oh, they're like buttery.
Top. That goes with our shorts.
They're almost cold.
They are. So literally, the really unique thing, and again, development, testing, all the things, was finding the right fabric. I found a lot of fabrics that would perform, but then they wouldn't hold up, whether it was in wash or whether it was, how quickly they dried. And so I ended up partnering with I used to work at Abercrombie Corporate back in the day. And so our head of fabric development now runs her own fabric firm. And so I reached out to her and said, hey, I'm struggling. Like, I've gotten to this point, but I just need something better. I need something better. And she's like, I have some new innovative thing I'm working on. I think you should test it out. So it's made from beech tree pulp. It's called modal, which actually, if you are buying high-end T-shirts, there's a good chance there's modal in it. So it is a yarn that's available in the market, but it makes for that super soft touch. Like,
it's like I feel like I'm holding a Lamborghini.
I know, you kind of are. But what makes it even more proprietary and innovative, I guess you can say, for Piper and Mint is that the yarns are infused with mint botanicals. So they take the mint botanicals out of the mint leaves, They infuse it in the yarn. It doesn't smell like mint, but what it does, mint is naturally antibacterial and cooling, as we know, right? Mint, everything is cooling. So that's what's giving you the cool touch is the mint botanicals infused in the yarns, as well as helping you not only wick that sweat away and absorb it, but then in the morning when you wake up, you don't smell like sweat because it is like 99.9% literally antibacterial. So it is taking the smell and stench out of the jammies.
And you just smell like a little tulip when you wake up.
You know, so great.
You're a little cool, minty tulip in the morning.
Yeah, and the cool thing has been, right, the postpartum piece was my experience. So that's where we started.
Right.
But what's been really exciting is all the conversations happening since then. So we are now launching into perimenopausal and menopausal jammies, which is really exciting. And even going back pre-pregnancy to women going through IVF that are dealing with the night sweats from being on those hormones as well. So I knew this would happen. Like I knew the brand would evolve. Going in with the postpartum piece, again, was my experience. That was the idea, you know, that started the business. But now it's like we found this amazing fabric that's working. I mean, the reviews, like sometimes I'll just sit and like weep to myself when I read these moms' reviews back to me because they're like, this is the first night I haven't showered in like 3 months, you know, in the middle of the night. And or another mama who's breastfeeding and she's like, everything hurts on my body. Like everything hurts, like my nipple, like everything hurts, but your jammies. And so I've just been wearing them all day. So it's cool to say like, okay, it works. Now what else, who else can we help? Like who else is going through this? And then also, you know, my mom's a 3-time breast cancer survivor and women that have breast cancer are usually being pushed into menopause early, put on tamoxifen and different things that also, again, cause you to have night sweats. So it's exciting to see that the product's working and that there's so many other women we can serve with it as well along their journey. It's not just for postpartum moms. It can really be throughout. Or if you're just someone that runs hot at night, you know, like I wear them because I do run hot at night. And so, you know, I'm not at that one of those stages of life right now, but they're just great jammies. So
now you just launched. This is your
like literally like 5 weeks ago.
It's your first go. Which is awesome. Okay, so let's talk about Shark Tank a little bit. So who would be your dream person to take you on?
Gosh, I know. Probably Laura. So it's interesting. If I go back to the crazy medium story, she said after the fact, she's like, you know, I was meditating this morning and Mark Cuban came to me before you walked in here, and I told my daughter about it because I thought I've never had Mark Cuban come to me. But turns out Mark Cuban is now leaving Shark Tank, I hear.
Is he?
So but he's in the health and wellness space. So just even if he's gone from Shark Tank, maybe there's still something going on there.
Also still
I don't know.
He's also still alive. So I'm kind of wondering how he came to her.
Well, she sees things.
That's wild. I love it, and it scares the shit out of me. Okay, so what have you thought about, like what it would be you would give, like what kind of percent, like what do you, obviously you want to scale this. Are you are you only online right now? Yeah,
so I'm online right now, and that's kind of the plan for right now.
I'm going to give you a little rehearsal of Shark Tank, like what a bitch looks like what are your margins?
Exactly.
So you're only online.
Only online right now.
Better for margins.
Yep, and fully self-funding this myself. Like,
right.
There's no other people in the mix aside from myself and my bank account.
Which it can't be that cheap.
No. And I also have a full-time employee because, as I mentioned, I have a full-time job as well. So I've had to hire somebody to, while I'm working 9 to 5, helping other people launch brands and businesses and product, she's helping me launch this. She's doing all my social media, my website management, customer service. I mean, Bailey is my lifeline. And like Bailey. Bailey. She's just the best.
Is your dream or your vision to be in like a Nordstrom, like retailers across the world? Yes,
I think in certain luxury retailers, because they are a little bit higher price point jammies. You know, they're about like $120 for a set. So yes, I definitely see a Nordstrom's, but I also, to be honest, see like a QVC. Also, where you have that menopausal, that market being something where there's a lot of women that have eyeballs there and like looking for solves and finding, and it's a demonstrative thing you can explain about the product, right? Because if you just go into Nordstrom's and see those on a rack, I mean, they're nice soft jammies, but it is having the story to tell about the why behind it and the problem it's solving, I think is part of it, until there's a branding where people just know like a Spanx, like you just know what Spanx does, right?
Well, I think that answers our question around which shark you want. Because isn't the one female a real,
Lori,
like her, she's like the QVC queen.
Totally.
And then would you want her, obviously you want money. Like we all need some cash infusion to scale.
Yes.
But having her experience and her ability to connect you
100%.
and hook you in. So what would you be willing to give? Like percentage-wise, you think off the top?
I think I could go in at like 15, 20. Like I think I could be a pretty rich partner here.
Yeah.
Because again, it's all self-funded right now. My plan is to keep that and just keep putting money. I'm lucky that my other business can pay my bills, so I can take the money earning from Piper and Mint and keep putting it back in the business and keep growing it.
How much money you want for that?
I think it depends on where I am in the business. Because right now...
So right now, if you went to Shark Tank, what would you say? Because your valuation probably isn't...
Oh, gosh. No, there'd be like nothing to... It'd
be like, here, I'll give you 15% for just doing that for me.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I mean, and that people do that.
Yeah. I mean...
Because her connections and where she could put you.
For sure.
I
mean, I wouldn't need a lot at all to have her come in and give her that. You know, again, for her connections... $150,000, right?
Like, hey, listen, $39.99. It's yours, 15%. So, Laura, Amelia, listen, we got you both covered.
Yeah,
you'd crush Shark Tank, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going on Shark Tank.
You absolutely listen. I know some people who've been on Shark Tank.
And so I was I'm part of a group called the Entrepreneurial League, and I was just on a group Zoom with their head of casting the other day. So like I'm putting myself in the places
it's a matter of when.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
So
okay, so
it's happening.
Piper and Mint, love it, love everything about it, highly rec. But I also love the BabyQuest component. So going back to what you said earlier, you always knew when you had a business there would be an underbelly or an underpinning of helping people. And you introduced me to BabyQuest, which I plan on reaching out. I followed them, and I would like to be able to help in any way that I can.
I love that.
I mean, when I was going through infertility, it was amazing, the 1-2 punch that infertility and then financial hardship, they come together.
Yep.
And I had a great job. My husband's a teacher. We made good money. And I was like, how do people do this?
They don't.
How do they do this, right? It's not okay. No. Like an insurance, I think some insurances are getting better. But I remember we did, like when I worked for AT&T, there was an adoption credit for like $5,000. And I was like, well, that's great. But like, you don't help with one dime for this? Like, it was such a gap.
Yep.
So talk to me about BabyQuest and how you came together with them and what you're doing.
Yeah, so BabyQuest, I actually found by another influencer on Instagram talking about them, right? And that's how I heard about them, started looking into it. And basically, they give fertility grants to those that can't afford the journey. So I was very lucky at the time. I worked for the Limited, and they did have pretty decent benefits. And I never had to go to IVF, right, to be fair. And that's where all of a sudden the real debt starts to come into play and whatnot. So, but I was lucky. I was able to afford the journey that I needed to take. But many couples cannot. I know have friends that have taken out loans and gone into debt around it, right? Like it's, and until, I mean, the long vision for Piper and Mint is like being on the front of some systemic change. Like I think it could happen, similar to like what a beauty counter was doing with trying to get safer products for us, right? And like really trying to lobby and get the insurance agencies to to make more coverage, or for companies to get on board and help support their moms in the workforce. BabyQuest, where we partner with them is a portion of our proceeds for everything that we do. A piece is going back to them to help give fertility grants to couples that are going through it. And there's quite a few here in Columbus, actually. So we're going to be interviewing a few coming up here. We've been in talks with BabyQuest about that, which would be an amazing opportunity for you and maybe a way to help to spread that message. But there's people locally all over the country, that are having amazing success through the grants given to them by BabyQuest.
I love it.
So until we get to a better place as a society that can help financially support, like I think this is a really easy way for me as a business owner to help, start making a little bit more of a difference.
Yeah. Well, girl, I mean, I am just excited to continue to watch you shine and blaze trails and move forward. Who run the world, Jackie? Yes. Who run the world, Jackie? So anything else before we close out?
Oh, man.
Any advice for women or?
Yeah, I think women are filled with a lot of amazing ideas. Like we are on the forefront of so many things, experiencing so many different things. And I just think if you have an idea, like don't diminish it. like talk about it, circulate it with people that you know will support you and love you, and test. I'm a big fan of testing things out, right? Like I got a couple yards of fabric and I had my factory make me a few samples. There's people here in Columbus that can also do that, by the way. So hit me up, anybody, if you're looking for that. But there are ways to just start. And, you know, a mile is run by lots of little steps, basically, right? So I just say, like, don't feel like a big audacious goal has to start big and audaciously. Like, it can start small. And again, if you have conviction and you really believe in something and there's a need in the market, you're probably not the only one. And so it's just finding your way to just start making small steps. So, you know, don't give up on those ideas. Like, we need those innovative ideas to keep, you know, the world and all the problems that are still in existence moving forward. So, and I think us as women are even more in tune with a lot of those problems that we're still facing today.
Yeah.
So
Amen to that.
yeah.
Okay, Jackie, so they see the jammies here. They're like, where can I get my grubby paws on these? Where can they find you and Piper and Mint?
So very simply, piperandmint.com. We're also on Instagram at Piper and Mint. If you are interested in the postpartum jammies, they are available online right now and at checkout. If you are so excited to purchase, we'd love for you to do that. And you can enter Carrie Croft at checkout for an extra special discount as well. And then if you are interested in our perimenopausal or menopausal jammies that are going to be launching this fall, sign up for our email blast. You're going to be the first to be notified about it as soon as they drop on the website.
See, there you go. If you put Carrie Croft in that little box, they're going to save you some coins. You can save up for some beanie babies. Well, thank you, Jackie.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You go tear it up in Granville this weekend with your girls and DJ.
Yeah.
Is it DJ Dawn?
DJ Dawn, baby.
DJ Dawn. You better bring it like it's, when did you graduate? What year?
2005.
Bring it like it's 2005, DJ Dawn.
Oh, we will be. Don't you worry about that.
That's awesome. And if you're still out there following your girl, follow me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, keep moving, baby.